Do you ever just want to read a fluffy rom-com? Like, it's that simple. Like, you're tired of the thriller, the crime, you know? And now you just want a normal, happy romance book to read. Books that will raise your expectations of men and have you be single forever. And books where after every chapter, you're closing the book and going like, why doesn't that happen to me? Well, then you've come to the right spot, because I am going to be recommending my top 5 romance books ever of all time. I love these books so much that it took me a total of 5 minutes to make this list. So what am I gonna make you wait for? Let's just get into the video. So the first book that I'm going to start with is Happily Never After. This is the most recent romance book that I've just finished, if I'm not wrong. I was kind of doubting myself if I should recommend this book or not. One of the reasons being I just forgot what it was about and how it ended, so I had to kind of do a little skim through to try and recall what happened. But basically, if you've seen the movie, I think Party Crashers is what it's called. I haven't seen it, which is why I'm saying a yes. It's a bit like that. So basically, a guy and a girl go into weddings, crash the weddings, get paid for it, and that's what they do. But it basically starts with the guy crashing the girl's wedding because the girl finds out the guy was cheating on him. And so it's basically a nice, subtle way to break up in front of everyone while giving them a reason, you know? So after the girl's marriage is happily broken, after a few months, she meets up with this guy accidentally. And she's like, oh my God, wait, you're the guy who broke up my wedding, aren't you? And then that's where a nice friendship bond begins. If there's one thing you take away about this book, is it is hilarious level number 10. 10 out of 10. Like, if you're in a bad mood and you just want a laugh, actually more than a laugh, you want to cackle in public, go for this book. Also, I'm sorry if I keep twisting. I have a twisty chair that I'm sitting on and it just keeps rotating for some reason without my will, which is kind of rude. And their story also unfolds in a way that is they're friends first and then lovers. I've never read a book of that trope before. It's always been enemies to lovers or fake dating mostly. So it's really refreshing reading this book. Both the characters are absolutely lovable. I love both of them. At times, the woman becomes annoying, but also that's just her, like, you know, character arc building and stuff. But I absolutely love the guy. What's his name? Max. So funny, so hilarious. He is hilarious. If you're a girl who gets attracted to a funny guy, you're gonna fall in love with Max. And one thing I also love, which I was scared of was gonna happen and that it was gonna make me hate the book a little bit, was that their bantering was gonna stop as soon as they started getting attracted to each other. But it's not the case. When I tell you I sighed, I'm twisting a bit too much. When I did that big sigh of relief, like finally, because usually what happens is the bantering stops and it's just more lovey-dovey and more relationshipy stuff, but that's not the case in this one. They stay friends to the core, which we love that. Gave this book a 5-star, you best believe. And if you're looking for a book that's based more on the characters and their relationship to each other before an official relationship, I think this is something you should read just to break up from that lovers or enemies to lovers kind of trope. I think this is a great trope to get into. So that was book number 1. Oh, and do you like how I have a pink light on in the background for love? I just thought I should bring it to your attention in case you didn't notice it. The next book, I think, is every single person's favorite romance book now. It's just like an automatic, yes, it's one of my favorite books, and that is The Sevene Slip. If you've not heard me talk about this book already, you're probably living on another planet, or you're just not subscribed to my channel, because I recapped about this book so much. This book is basically about Clementine, who has just gone through a rough tragedy, and she's just picking up the pieces of her life right now. Oh, and also she lives alone. She lives alone in her apartment. But one fine day she comes home from work and she sees a handsome man standing in her kitchen, which is awesome. Either creepy or really like, oh my God, what are you doing here vibes. And then she finds out the guy actually lives 7 years in the past, which is great, isn't it? So the guy appears in her kitchen on and off, and then Clementine has a chat with him, you know, whenever she can. But then she finds herself falling for the guy, which is weird because he lives 7 years in the past. So like, how is he gonna be like double her age like later? How is this gonna work? Those are the exact questions I had, and that is why you need to read this book, because I've never read a book with magical realism in it, and this was one of the first books. If you're someone who thinks that the magical bit is not gonna be realistic at all, actually it's magic, so like it won't be realistic, but you know what I mean? It will just lose its charm through the middle of the book because it'll get repetitive or something. I'll stop you right there because you're absolutely wrong. This book will have you like on your toes, like, what's gonna happen? Oh my God, I hope this, oh my God. This book will have you that way. I've also sobbed because of this book, so you will cry, so make sure you have tissues. One thing I really liked about this book is this book talks about grief, and I liked how realistically grief was written, how Clementine was dealing with the grief and how it was realistic. It wasn't something that was like, oh like I found a man, so like my grief is gone. No, like she's still going through it. And so that grief bit will definitely make you cry, sob, maybe. If you're looking to add another book boyfriend to your list, add this guy. His name is not Sky. I'm not gonna tell you his name. And it is written so beautifully. Every single sentence is like, oh my god, the author sat down and really thought about how this book was gonna come across to people, because honey, did it come across? It's so pretty. If there's like a synonym for pretty, beautiful, enchanting, these words on paper are exactly that. Oh, and do you wanna know what it says at the bottom? 7-year slip, right place, wrong time. Whenever people say, oh my god, right place, wrong time, or right time, wrong place, I'm like, stop, do not speak anymore, because that sentence itself is so sad. Because it's like two lovers, like you're meant to be together, but something's wrong. Either the place is wrong or the time is wrong, and that is absolutely tragic. I think that is the most tragic. I think that's the most 5 minutes. I think that's one of the most tragic lines of all time that has anything to do with love. Like love and that line, both of those lines, do not put them together, because that is just sad. And I absolutely gave this book a 5-star, and I'm sure you'll absolutely love it. I don't think there's any one of you who's watching who will hate this book or not give it a 5-star. But also read it and then let me know. I'm not overhyping it for you, but also I am, because it is that good. The next book is The Love Hypothesis. So our main character is Olive, who is a scientist. Well, she's a woman in STEM. Easily, like that's what she is. Otherwise it's so complicated for my brain. So that's what she is, and her friend keeps telling her that she needs to get into the dating pool, and she's kind of lonely and sad. So because of that pressure, she goes a bit like cuckoo, like, oh my god, what am I supposed to do? Like my friends can't stop bothering me about this. And so one day she goes into work and kisses the first man she sees. Like a stress kiss, I guess you could say. And the man happens to be a professor in the university, and hot. But he's a professor. But he's young. He's not like old, like he's a young professor. He's just really smart. And so after that kiss, they decide to fake date for her friend's sake, you know, so they stop bothering her, and also because he also needs to be dating someone in order to level up to another level, because apparently that makes him reliable. So this author basically always writes about women in STEM. I think because she was a scientist or something in the past, it's actually written. I can't find it, but I'm positive she's like worked in science before. And so every science detail that she's written, I kind of like. Not a fan of science myself, do not have the brain cells for that, but the way she's explained stuff, I'm like, am I a scientist? Just to say like how easily readable her stuff is, even if it's science-based and like, you know, all the complicated stuff. About like this much into the book, I guess. This much into the book, I was like, okay, it's going like a normal fake dating trope. It's fine, it's nice, cool, whatever. Absolutely next page after, I'm like, something special about this book. I can't pinpoint exactly what, but something is special, because both the characters are going through immense stress from their own lives, because they're both working in the science field, they're both scientists, so you know there's lots of pressure, they're always working, they rarely have time for each other. But I don't know, it's something about those small moments when they're going to get a coffee or small stuff like that, where they manage to keep 5 minutes to meet each other. It's just so special to me. Those small moments, like, oh my god, you thought from your time of day to leave whatever you were doing and come meet me, even if it's for 5 minutes. And so I was like, so cute, so cute. And there are some things in this book I was not expecting. Had me a bit traumatized. I was like traumatized in a sad way. Like, why is she going through that? But truly towards the end of the book, it is like a romance book gone rogue, because the ending is like, what's gonna happen? Oh my god, no, it can't end this way, no. So, you know, you're basically gonna keep holding your breath until this book ends, which I love, and that's why I love this book. It is very different from the books I've read so far. I still remember what's happened. I love the characters. I loved reading the problems of both the characters, because it's not like, oh, one of them is more solved in the head than the other. No, they're both equally struggling in life, which I love. And if I'm not wrong, I gave this book a 5-star. Next is a book I have talked about quite a lot, and that is Falling Hard for the Royal Guard. I think one of the reasons why I always mention this book when it comes to romance, or one of my favorite books of all time, is because of the setting of this book, which also I have mentioned before. It is the Tower of London, and the girl who has written this book used to or still lives in the Tower of London. So like, why would you not like that? I love it. Our main character is Maggie, who works in the Tower of London and lives there with her dad. Quite a boring life, if you ask her, because her life is just monotonous, going and doing a boring tourist guide job, and she doesn't really love it. And she's also dealing with a crazy ex, which is never fun. So this one fine day, something comes over to her head, and you know those guards who don't move? Yeah, that one exactly. She tries to talk to him while he's on duty to see if he will react. What do you think he does? He reacts, and that is what the story is about. As I said, number one, the reason I love it is the setting of the book. Absolutely gorgeous. Also, something about reading this book and her living in the Tower of London and the security that is in the Tower of London. As an anxious girly, it just puts my mind to rest. Like, oh my god, okay, no one's gonna murder her and she's gonna live a peaceful life. Cause like, no one's allowed in, no one's allowed out without questioning. So you best believe for an anxious girly, it's like, oh my god, that is such a peaceful thing to know. Like, if I could live there, I would, because of the security. And at times, this guy right here, what's his name? If you don't know his name, I found him so annoying because I was like, bro, what are you doing? I'm not going to tell you why, because that is like the charm of the book, but I was like, just like be an adult. What are you doing? Also a bit confusing. Why are you doing this? It's also a very wholesome book. There are moments where in the evenings she goes and meets with like these older men who are also guards, and like she is a girl who can make friends with anyone. Like, she is the life of the party, like an introvert life of the party. You know, when you're with people you're comfortable with, but you're an introvert, you're basically an extrovert, and that is what this girl is. She's so kind, so compassionate, and absolutely a gem of a human, and I love this book. And all I'm saying is it has a fairy tale ending. Do with that what you will. It has a fairy tale ending. Gave this book a 5-star, you best believe, so go read it. I've recommended it like lots of times now. You should be tired of me talking about this, so just go read it so I can stop, okay? And finally, the last book that I'm going to be talking about is, drumroll please, Just for the Summer. If you haven't heard, everyone and their mother has been talking about this book. Also, look at the cover. How pretty. How pretty is that? That should be enough to have you read this book. So our main characters are Justin and Emma. So Justin posts a Reddit post. That was hard to say. He posts a Reddit post that whenever he dates someone, they break up and his partner always finds the love of their life. And so now he thinks it's a curse and he wants to break it. Emma, on the other hand, is going through a similar situation as well. Whoever she's with, they break up and they go get married and have kids and babies, and it's just sad. And Emma is a nurse, so she flies around different cities each month or, you know, during a specific time to do her duty in that city. And Justin, luckily, seems to be living there. And so they decide, you know what, we should date each other just to break up and find our love of our lives. Break the curse for both of us. That is what the book is about. And also, it's not just that. Emma has a toxic mother. Justin is about to take ownership of his 3 siblings. Tell me you're not struggling in life more than that. Justin is the perfect on-paper book boyfriend ever. He sends surveys before a date to ask the girl what she would like to do, and surveys after the date to like have the girl's reviews. Like, oh, did you enjoy the date? And what would you prefer next time? That's all I'm gonna say. Also cried in this book, and this is absolutely jaw-dropping book ever. A romance book ever. One of the most perfect romance books after The Love Hypothesis. It's this one, where the guy actually thinks about you. They see a drink, they're like, oh my god, this made me think of you. Or just doing a random errand and being like, oh my god, that made me think of her. Let me buy that for her. You know, that type of vibe. You're gonna love this book. I heard so many people on TikTok rave about this book, and I was like, what is so good about this? Besides the cover, I can see it's like fantabulous, but like, why are people loving it? It's also a little bit thicker than normal romance books, so like, why are people liking this? You best believe I read it and I was like, I shouldn't be feeling this way about a book talk book. I'm loving this more than usual, and it's weird. And I usually don't become a fan of authors like after reading one book. Like, I don't go like, oh, I finished this book, I'm gonna read more of this author. Never been a mindset of mine. However, I read this book and I was like, give me more of this author right now. Abby Jimenez, who is this? I wanna love her like Taylor Swift. I cried, I sobbed, I giggled, I laughed. This book gave me all the emotions you can think of. Anger as well, yes, it gave me all of them. And also the scenery is, I love it. They basically live in this, I guess it's called a boathouse. No, it's not called a boathouse, but basically there's this house, there's water, and across the water is the house where the girl's living. So basically the people who own this house have rented out this house where she lives, and so now there's a boat. And now if she wants to get to her place every day, she literally has to sit in the boat and get to the place. She wants to go to work and sit back in the boat, get to work. I'm sorry, I love that. So different. And also, if you think you cannot finish a romance book within a week or less than that, this book will prove you wrong. Like, if you have the time, you will be able to finish this book in 2 days. I am telling you, it is that good. And usually for romance books, it's not that case, because usually it's like, oh, I know what's gonna happen, I'm gonna come back to it later, I don't feel like it. But this one, you're like, I actually don't know what's gonna happen, and even if I did, I still want to know what's gonna happen, and I want to know it now. I want to stay up until 2 a.m. finishing this book, and that is actually what I did. Can you guess how much I gave it? Any guesses? No one? 5 stars. Yes, 5 stars. I gave it a 5 star. Gonna slowly put this back here, but just saying. So those were my top 5 romance books recommendations. I hope something caught your eye or interested you, or even just the plot or the characters. I hope something helped you to read a romance book. If it did, let me know which romance book you're gonna pick up next. And if you've already read any of these romance books, let me know which ones you read and how much you rated them. If I were you, I would read all of these books like consecutively, just finish them all in a month and live my best life. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up, follow me on my socials, subscribe if you haven't already, because I like to be your friend. And if you're not subscribed, so how are you going to know about more of my speaking disability if you don't subscribe? Yeah, have a lovely rest of your day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye. I don't understand why I keep doing like, stop it, just go bye. Bye.